Ladies and gentlemen, Binnall of America!
And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Tim Binnall.
No commercials, no subscriptions, no network, no rules, and at the end of the day, my friends, no comparison. Welcome to another edition of BOA The Revival. This is going to be a little bit different episode in a way for me. You may not notice it, listeners, but this might be the earliest we've ever recorded, certainly an episode of The Revival. I'd have to go back 20 years for the show itself. There may be earlier ones, but this is certainly, in the top 5 of earliest in the time we've taped it. So taping this at 11 a.m., which I'm sure some people out there are like, I get up at like 6 a.m. Well, look it, okay? It's 11 a.m. It's Small Business Saturday. It's the day after Black Friday. So, everyone's a little slow moving today here in America this whole weekend. But we got a guest from over in England, so we gotta change things up here to make it work for everybody. And so I'm like slowly kind of waking up as we do this show. I'm pretty vibrant already, but I can definitely feel like the fog sort of just starting to lift on my brain. So maybe you'll be able to pick that up as you listen to the show. I don't know, but anyway. Our guest is coming all the way from England, Rich Morley. He is a British Tai Chi and Qigong expert, but he's also a student of high strangeness and the paranormal, particularly around Wakefield over in England. And also he's got theories on stuff, and he's a longtime supporter of Binnall of America. He's got a show on Roku called Misteria. And that'll be, I think, also moving over onto YouTube, or there'll be stuff on YouTube soon with Misteria as well. And that's Misteria. So he's got a CV, as they say over in England. And I want to get him on the show here during the holiday season. So here he is, coming all the way from England. Rich Morley, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Can't wait to chat.
Hey, Tim. Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure to finally be on BOA after listening for many, many, many years now.
Yeah, it's weird. I usually don't have listeners per se on, but then I find out they do listen to other people who come on. So it's cool. It's a lot of fun. I hope I can live up to whatever you might expect of me. or down to.
Fair enough. I just need to give you some shit first, though, Tim. We used to spend a lot of time in my girlfriend's family live in Swampscott, just outside Boston. And about 13, 15 years ago, we got in touch with you. My girlfriend Shannon got in touch going, hey, Tim, do you want to meet up in Boston? You're like, yeah, sure. Where do you want to meet? And she's like, oh, round Faneuil Hall, Quincy Mark. And you're like, oh, geez, that's a ways away. So we can't meet. So you let us down there. But your shows make up for it.
Well, if I'd known we'd be talking 15 years later, I would have made more of an effort. So there you go. I learned my lesson. Yeah, that's a real nightmare. I don't know what that would be like if that would be like if I came out to England and I'm like, hey, I'm at fucking, Big Ben, dude. I'll be at Big Ben all afternoon. Just come down and, it's almost that much. Not entirely, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not dealing with that shit. Are you crazy? What are you, not like, well, it would be like if you called me from Salem. I'd be like, well, have fun in Salem. And, if you get out of there, we'll hang out. But I'm not going into that crazy house. Well, let's start out. My apologies, though, to you and your girlfriend.
Yeah.
So let's start out with the bio, the background. Who is Rich Morley? How'd you get mixed up in all this stuff?
Right. Yeah. So I got interested in this stuff when I was a little kid, really. There used to be a magazine called It Unexplained, and I got all the copies of that when I was a little kid, and that was covering all the things from spontaneous human combustion to UFOs to Bigfoot to all the other stuff. And looking back on it, it was quite a serious investigation, even though it was a magazine. So I was reading those, digging out books, looking at ancient civilizations at a very young age. And then I sort of like, they all drifted away after a certain point. I lost all sort of interest in that sort of stuff. And then 20 years ago or something like that, maybe, I started sort of, around this time YouTube started really, I started like looking for a few videos here and there. And then I started researching some shit and things started tying together. And I started digging further and further and researching more and more about many of these topics. So I did that for a long time. And eventually I started doing a sort of a series of talks called Rich's Mysteries, which were getting people to join me online and pay money to have me talk about various subjects, doing deep dives into them. And then that translated into the TV series. One of the people got involved with that was starting a new TV series. She's like, "Well, Rich, you just what I want on my TV show. Will you see on my channel? Will you join?" And I'm like, "Why the fuck not? I'll get a bigger audience.
Yeah.
Turn more people on, And it's all about looking deeper, trying to get a little bit behind, lifting the curtains. People can see more of the craziness of reality, more of the things that interconnect that they don't recognize or realize if you just look at it on a surface level."
Yeah.
And to be frank, Wakefield, where I live, it's a fucking crazy place, Tim.
Yeah, you were saying that before we started. You've kind of uncovered what you've come to call the Wakefield Triangle, which is sort of like a paranormal hotspot, a zone of weirdness over there. Talk about that and Wakefield itself. Tell me about this.
It's totally. So I've had some weird experiences. I know other people have had weird experiences. And then I started digging into Wakefield a little bit more. And then earlier on this year, I was going to do a tour. People came from all over England to do a tour with me of some of the sites in Wakefield. So I'd isolated, in all the reported things that go on around Wakefield, there are things going all over the place, but there are three major places. So one of them's called Sandal Castle, so that's an ancient from a War of the Roses castle. So if you imagine that's the tip of the anyway, let me just rewind a bit. So there's that, and then there's two Knights Templar sites. One people know was a Knights Templar site, that's called Newlands Hall. And massive amounts of weird, crazy shit happens there. And then another place called Alverthorpe, but in my research I found out, and not many people know about that the Templars also had that. So Newlands Hall is also known to the locals as Ghost Town. So there's the remnants of the hall are there, the grounds are there, but it's essentially a big old line all the way down to it for about 2 miles where crazy shit happens from a place called the Backs. Yeah. Where people have had, let's say, there's like a 7 foot tall monk style figure, but he's got no face. People see. We see him like across the river at dawn, like looking out and stuff. There's been like people mysteriously transported, like from one point to another.
Weird.
Like massive amounts of UFOs down there, and that's a place called the Backs. Strange sightings of creatures, weird noises, all sorts of crazy ass shit down there. But then you actually get down to Newlands Hall, and then people report massive amounts of that. Then I'll rewind to these sites in a minute. I'll just explain this triangle thing for you. So anyway, I knew those were the three sites that I was going to take people to, but I was going up to Sandal Castle to like check this place out, and I'll talk about each one of the sites as we get to them. But when you get to the top of Sandal Castle, you can see pretty far out. And I'm like, hang on a minute, I can see St. Paul's Church from here. That's interesting. That's like the site where the graveyard there and all the fields up to it, where people report lots and lots of mysterious stuff. And I'm like, hang on, I can see that from there. What else can I see? And I looked in the direction of Newlands Hall. I'm like, hang on a minute. Is this a fucking triangle?
Yeah.
I got back home and I went on Google Earth and I plotted it out, and it's a perfect equilateral triangle.
Oh wow!
With Sandal Castle is perfectly south, and the other two tips of the bottom points of it And that's perfectly due south. So all this stuff, and then the city I live in, because in England, cities aren't like cities, you know what I mean? Like you like there in America. It's like, imagine like a town. But the entirety of the city sits within this triangle. But because I know about all these stories around the rest of Wakefield, I'm like, hang on a minute, let me look into this a little bit further. And there's a place called Pinderfields Hospital, and if you go a little bit past that, there's a temple and monastery further along, and that lines up with Newlands Hall, some distance away. But loads of stuff happens there, and I don't like to talk about it. If it gets onto the internet, they have it scrubbed off Facebook and stuff because the hospital don't like talking about getting access.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
But loads of stuff happens in all of this area, and then if you come down, there's another place, Wakefield Park, lots of stuff happens all in that area. And a place called Heath, which again is in a line with Newlands Hall, some distance away. And that actually forms another triangle.
Oh, wow.
Pinderfields is due north. And essentially, it creates a hexagram, a six-pointed star.
Okay.
Wakefield's sitting in the middle of this thing with all this activity going on all around it.
Wow, weird.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Now, do you think the Knights Templar were aware of sort of the high strangeness factor of this when they made these locations?
Yeah, I totally do. I think from what they were doing in the Holy Land, they were digging there on the Temple Mount, trying to find stuff from the ancient civilizations. And I think they had greater knowledge than most people. And I think they're specifically built in these areas to utilize the energy of these areas, which is very powerful for whatever they were up to.
Yeah,
that's you can just accidentally just sit yourself on 2 points, which are the most powerful points of 3 in the entirety of the area, because they're only in a few places up north, but here was one of them. So yeah, I think they were using that, and it's still very powerful and palpable to this day. For instance, when I took the people on a tour, they were picking it up all over the place, you know. Especially if you couple of really sensitive people. And when we got into the churchyard, like Christy, one of the people on the tour, she's like, like the Aussie factor, like when buzzing and stuff. Me and my friend had been super sensitive the week before, and she picked up on it, and she's like, "What's this buzzing I can hear? What the fuck's going on?" And then we got halfway down because I didn't tell people because it's super strong. Halfway down the graveyard. And she hit it. She's like, "What even is this place? I don't want to be here anymore." So yeah, still super fun around that. Yeah. So
go ahead.
So I'll tell you a few stories from each area if you want.
Sure. Yeah. Let's hear some stories.
All right. Okay. So let's start at the Sandal Castle. So the area below Sandal Castle used to be called Goblin's Hollow or Goblin's Nook because they thought the Fae lived down there. Right. In the fields just below the castle, crop circles have appeared twice, and crop circles don't generally appear in the rest of the country, mainly seated in Wiltshire. And I've got a very cool crop circle story to tell you in a bit, but there was one 2 years ago appeared, a big star one, and there's another one appeared, both in Goblin's Nook. But someone I know they were traveling with a friend down the, so there's the River Calder, which is a very mysterious river because people keep ending up in it in very strange circumstances, right?
Yeah.
And there's a couple of lakes. So there's a narrow sort of path down between the river and these lakes. And my friend was going down there about 6, 7 o'clock at night. And they saw some orbs up in the sky. They're like, "Whoa, bloody hell, this is quite amazing." And more and more and more of them appeared. And they stopped counting about 200 of these things. They were appearing and disappearing.
Oh, wow.
Like turning on and off. And we're like, "Oh, I've heard you can cyclically contact these things." So like, "I want to contact you," and pointed to one. And as soon as they thought about it, this red light went bing on the side of the thing.
No, weird.
Yeah. They were there for about like half an hour watching all of these things just sitting over this lake. And then they're just thinking to themselves, well, should I stay or should I fuck off now? And they just thought it in their head. And there's a little flood defense about 3 foot high next to them. And then they heard this voice and looked around. There was like a 5 foot tall man with his back to them, with his hood up, with
weird.
a hood up, who said, yes, I think it's about time you fucked off now, don't you? Out there, and they went, oh, right, I better get out of here. I think you're right. So then on the way they went.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. So there's a fair amount of crazy stuff happening down at Sandal Castle. If we go to Newlands Hall now, or Ghost Town, because there's some big houses there as well, which were Victorian, which were abandoned due to gas leaking up from the mines.
Oh, wow, really?
Years ago. So there's a few abandoned things down there and stuff. But some people were going down there one night and they were driving the car down, and then something sort of loomed up in front of the car in the headlights and stood right in front of them. And all we could describe it was on all fours, and it stood up, and all we could do was describe it like a giant gorilla. Just weird. Right in front of them, like it was stopping them going that way. And they're like a Bigfoot?
Like a Bigfoot?
A little, but not quite. Like, describe like a gorilla, but they don't know that sort of thing. So, it was just locals just going for a smoke or a few beers down there,
Yeah.
So they were freaked out. So all these reports are findable on the internet. Anyway, so they start trying to reverse the car back and forth and get it around on this tiny path as these things looming over them. And they managed to get away and stuff. And it's sort of running after them a little bit.
Oh, wow.
So they got out of there. Now, that 6 foot tall, 7 foot tall mystery monk character I was talking about.
Yeah.
Some other people were just wandering down there in November one day. And with High Strangeness, what gets me is there's a comedy aspect to some of this shit.
Yeah, an absurdity to it, yeah.
Yeah, certainly. So you see this 7 foot tall monk, and you're going to be like, with no face, it's just a black thing there. You're going to be highly freaked out, aren't you? But they're walking along, they saw something on the floor, like some old material on the floor in front of them. It's like a man and his wife walking along. And this is in the daytime. Yeah. Anyway, as it got towards it, it went and went from this cloth on the floor into this giant 7 foot tall monk. And they're like, ah! And then he goes in a really fast voice. He's like, oh, do excuse me, I didn't want to scare you. And at that point, they ran off.
The monk said this.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, but
when did this happen? When did this happen?
Since within the last 5 years.
Oh, wow. That's wild.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah. So, another couple were wandering through on a very muddy day. So they're wearing the Wellington boots. It's all thick with mud down there. And they saw a woman in Victorian white outfit with 2 children just standing there in the mud. But they couldn't have got into the mud because they got white shoes on and there's no mud.
Right. Yeah.
But, they interacted with them as they walked past. They saw them and they were looking at them and followed tracked them with their eyes and stuff as they went past, but we didn't say anything to them. And then they just, when they looked around, they just disappeared like that.
Spooky.
Yeah, it's a crazy place down there.
Now, you mentioned a dog man sighting at one of these spots?
Yeah, totally. So, it's actually the fields at the back of me. It happens, so there's a mile square of land, even though I'm just outside the city centre. It goes up to Alderthorpe, where the Templars were, and all the way through this area, people report stuff. I've got footage of orbs, orange orbs, just there, essentially, 45 seconds away from around the corner from me. We've filmed them over the back of here, and then we've tracked and travelled and just sat over St. Paul's Church again. So in the 90s, 2 guys and 2 girls were sat in Renthorpe Park, which is just at the end of the field. So let's say you can walk a mile this way, and then you can go a mile that way, and St. Paul's is at the top. There's all water meadows. So no one's ever lived on all of this land, And they were sat there in the car, and then one of the girls sort of saw something out right and then looked around and there was like a dog man. And again, this is before people reporting dog man or anybody, especially locals, wouldn't know what thought that stuff was. Know about Beast of Bay Road and all that. And he like leant over and like just from the side of the car and just looked in through the back window.
Jesus. Oh, wow.
Screaming. The guy looks in the mirror. They're all screaming. It reached round, scraped the car with its nails and left a big scrape down the side of the car. They were all freaking out. And then it like stood up and they reversed out of there and got the hell out of there and they'll never go back there again.
That's crazy. Jesus. This is all. How big is this general area that is this triangle?
It can't be more than, it's all set within, let's say, everywhere's within about 2 miles of each arm of the triangle is about 2 miles.
Wow. So it's really a pretty small little area.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly, but it does go on all over the place. Like down the road from me, there's a street where they've been having loads of poltergeist activity. They've had a documentary film company making a film there. And while they were there, like the fire got ripped off the wall and thrown across the room.
Damn.
Yeah, totally. So while we're talking about St. Paul's, so there's a dog man down at the bottom. Now, as I said, not many people would know that the Knights Templar were at Alderthorpe at all because it's just not talked about. And I had to do a lot of digging into historical records to find this shit out.
Yeah.
But like one day a guy was like walking his dog up through the fields and there's a lot of like hawthorn hedges. We used to like weave the hawthorn together to like create pens for cattle way back in the day. And it's about 6 at night, but it's summertime, so it's still bright. And he saw something glinting out of the hawthorn bushes, you know, about 10 foot tall, these trees or whatever. And he's like, well, I'll go over and have a look. And he looked in his bush, and there was a knight standing.
Really? Weird.
Yeah.
Like an armor, like a knight in shining armor, literally like that.
Yeah, so not like a Templar dress, like a full knight in armor.
Yeah.
And of course, he pegged it and ran away very quickly, and his wife made the report. But yeah,
weird.
All the way up there, and then it just goes on and on for the entirety of the area. It's just like story after story after story. Someone's seen another 7 foot tall fellow around that area, but he had a big top hat on. And they were walking down an alley towards the entrance to the coming out of the fields, down to an alley where there's a street light, and this guy's walking towards him, and he like looked at him, and then like he saw the guy was like his bottom half was dissolving as he walked past him.
Weird. That's strange.
Yeah.
Now, you live in that area. Have you had any crazy experiences of your own? I'm sure. I have a feeling the answer to that is yes.
Yes, I certainly have, Tim. I certainly have. So one time, so there's a lot of synchronicities involved in this, right? So we're on our way over to America, and for American viewers, I was at a laundromat drying some clothes. We're in a hurry to get lots of stuff done. And there's some small side roads off a main road, and then there's like little footpaths, imagine, we call them ginnels, that go between the roads, so you can walk up all the way through them. And I was researching giants at the time because I've got a lot of evidence like that giants existed for all over North America, as I'm sure you've heard, and stuff, all the cave and all of the other stuff. And you know, the Smithsonian have got in their records loads of the giants that they dug up and still like to talk about that shit nowadays. So anyway, I'm like, I'm listening to a podcast that's got nothing to do with any of it. And then on the podcast, someone says, yeah, I was brought up on Mound Street, the same street as Charlie Manson. I'm like, fair enough. And he said, they excavated that mountain and took the bones of giants out of there.
Oh,
right. Yeah. So like, well, that's an interesting data point because I'm like researching giants and stuff and the mound cultures and stuff of America. So as I walk up, it's broad daylight, it's springtime, so I've just been looking down. It's a little hill and there's all like cherry blossom trees on either side of this little road. And I'm just looking down going, oh, how beautiful that is. And I looked around into this, this little alley, and there was some guy staring at me. And there was a series of books called the Mr. Men books for little kids and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, in that sort of thing, it'd be like, and Billy looked around and a giant was smiling at him. So I look around, sort of thing. So I look around, and in the middle of this thing, which is like, it's not more than 6 feet wide, there's a guy with his hands on his knees looking at me and smiling like he's so pleased to see me, like he knows me intimately. And it's just like looking at me. And I'm like, whoa, a local lunatic. Now I'm not afraid of anybody. I'm a world-class martial artist and stuff. I was intending on going up. But I'm like, well, I'm going up there. Going now. As I walked towards him, he like jumped to the side and tried to hide behind a very thin lamppost, pinned himself against the wall. And I looked at him, I'm like, and he was super tall. So I like, look, I'm 6'2". I looked up at him and I went, thanks, mate, 'cause he got out of my way. And he's like, seemed really concerned, confused that I could see him.
Weird.
So I carried on walking, and then it turns that way and goes onto another road up there. So I walked through this Binnall, up onto this road, and look, hang on a minute, there's a fucking giant. I'm going back to have a look at this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and see this guy. So I walked past and he wasn't there. Walked through the Binnall where I'd been, and coming out of the other one was the same guy. But, I'd looked up and I've been back and there's no hill or anything. This guy was way taller than I am. And he was coming back through the Binnall, but he was like, face was melting. He was like this. And he was about 5'10", like shape-shifting in front of me.
Jesus. What do you think that was? All right, go ahead and I'll finish the story, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't want to go talk to that man. I'm not afraid of any giants, but that's too much for me. I'm going this way. Because honestly, it was like this. It was the same cloth, about 5'10" all of a sudden. So I went back and carried on. Now, I was reading a book. Oh, God, I forgot the author's name. It'll come back to me in a minute. But I'd been reading a book, like, it was one about previous civilizations and stuff, and people before our time with all that OOP stuff, out-of-place objects and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just put it down here, and I left the book open. So I thought, well, that's all super strange. I hear on this podcast they're talking about giants in Moundsville, and then I've seen a giant, it's a manifestation. It wasn't real giant, evidently. It was something super else, otherwise than shape-shifting and all this stuff. But when I'm like reading the book, the next page, I opened it like that, and it was on about Death Valley. So I'd stopped before I went to the laundromat, pick the book up on the Monday, have a look. It says, and in Death Valley, there was a veritable Eden full of giants, it said.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Weird.
The Binnall that I saw the giant in leads to Eden Avenue.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, there are weird synchronicities there, yeah.
It's all this going on. Yeah. So that was a super freaky time for me, I'll tell you.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you are kind of an advocate for ancient advanced civilizations. You're a believer that so tell me a little bit about this. How ancient and how advanced? What's your theory, I guess you could say? Do you have a theory on this?
I would say super advanced, really, Tim, because we can see the evidences around the world now, modern archaeology, and people would like to make claims about this stuff, but you can just see it if you look at certain sites. If you look at Egypt, for instance, we find the incidences of them. There are shattered statues, granite statues, which were standing statues at the time, but we still got the parts of them. And there were at least 1,000 tons of single piece of granite, which has been perfectly carved, and a standing statue, and carved with precision where you can see the musculature in them. But that granite's come from Aswan, which is 500 miles away. The Nile only flooded 3 months a year, and they claim you could fit that in a boat. No Egyptian boat could take that sort of thing. So they were moving and cutting granite to incredibly high tolerances. Every one of And what you find is they claim that the dynastic Egyptians built all this stuff based on very, very lightweight pieces of evidence indeed, but it helps to fill the picture. You know, the so-called pyramids, they claim they were like 4,500 years old, and they go, oh, the major one was built for Khufu. Now, there was a guy who went into the so-called relieving chambers. He blew his way in, right, with dynamite, and one had found it. So, and in it, he supposedly found this writing, this graffiti that said, we are stonemasons in this quarry, and we're building this for Khufu. But the trouble is like, he had been funded and was running out of money and had not found any treasure like everybody wanted. And an author's written a book about this. In his personal diaries, which you can still see, it says, busted our way into a relieving chamber. There's no evidence of anything in there. There's nothing on the walls. There's nothing anywhere.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Another guy on the expedition, his family have still got his personal diaries, which said, name's gone in a second. So I'm heading down to the pyramid with a tin of red ochre this evening. I wonder what he's up to. And then they fell out and he got kicked off the expedition. Yeah. So someone's gone in and written all of this stuff in there, but because the chamber goes downwards, they've started making the writing smaller and smaller to fit for writing it, which wouldn't have happened if you're just writing it randomly in a quarry.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
And that's what we're basing that stuff on, right? So the precision building you find all over the Giza Plateau with massive amounts of stuff. So like the Sphinx, for instance, Robert Schoch from Boston University, he on the cautious side, he put it at 10,500 years old minimum due to the water erosion that's down in the Sphinx enclosure. But also what you got there is the Sphinx so-called temple, yeah? But what they've done is, because there's like a yardang, so there's some limestone sticking up, they've put down, created that enclosure, but then they've built this building out of it. But it's all 200-ton blocks of stone.
Yeah.
Which you don't really want to use. And all that limestone's super degraded also, which makes it super much older than they think. So they've built this 200-ton thing when you multiple stones, which you don't need to do. You just don't need to do that sort of thing. But really tellingly is like, there's everywhere. There's evidence of like super speed core drilling, and they couldn't work out why the core, because granite's an agglomerate, and it's got like quartz and stuff in it. So they could work out how their core drills sped up when it got to the quartz, which would be even harder than the granite. Granite's 7 on the Mohs scale. But if you were doing ultrasonic drilling, that makes sense because we use quartz, and the quartz would vibrate with the ultrasonics, and it would actually pass through it faster. So their drilling was 500 times faster than ours. There's evidence of 30-foot circular saws which have cut down 20 foot and then have missed and gone all the way down to here. And then have pulled it out and gone back again. But if you're using a copper saw like they claim, which wears away so rapidly on granite, you wouldn't make that amount of deviation and go, oh, shit, we're off. We need to pull this back now.
Right. Yeah.
So there's stuff everywhere all over Egypt is really telling. But what's really interesting at the moment is these precision vases that we're finding. Now, they're not really vases. It's what people call them. Like, have you heard about this stuff?
No. Tell me.
Right. So under the, I believe it's a step pyramid, they found 40,000 of these jars. Some massive. They've got these lug handles like this, and they're like this. Some are sort of ultra tiny. Some are super massive, but they're made out of things from 7 to 9 on the Mohs scale of hardness, and 10 being diamond.
Yeah.
So there's these vases which are ultra thin, down to precision of 20,000th the width of the human hair.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, totally. And some you can see through, but they balance perfectly on their ends. There's tiny ones and there's big-ass ones of it, and it looks like someone's collected them. It's like Egyptians seem like a cargo cult, essentially. They've walked into that place and based their culture about what they found there, essentially.
Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting theory.
Yeah. So if you look at Ramesses II, Everybody goes, oh, he was great. He made all this stuff everywhere. No, he just had his name cut deeper into everything.
Right. So you think the pyramids and the Sphinx and all that are super older, and then the Egyptians came along afterwards and kind of like fell into this. So who were the people that had who was that civilization? I mean, do you have any idea? Any theory on that?
Well, the Egyptians say that there wasn't that culture. They were an inherited culture. Even saying their records, they call it Tepi the first time, the time of the gods, when the gods walked the earth, which you would see them as super, if you got super high tech compared to these people. Yeah. So let me just jump on a bit further with these vases a second.
Yeah.
Now, with the dating on these, they found them in hunter-gatherer graves who've evidently found these as well. And they've carbon dated like these hunter-gatherer graves to at least 14,000 years ago. So 14,000 years ago, people have found these things and seen them as super precious and from the gods and been buried with them, even though these really were hunter-gatherers. And I've talked to a geologist who accidentally managed to latch onto a couple of pieces from under this pyramid, just broke them because he recognized the stone. And both types of stone, because they're made from a variety of vases, both types of stone come from North America.
Oh, wow. That's weird.
No, this hasn't come out yet. But there are a lot of people putting real research into it now, and a lot of money. So they've managed to get hold of a lot of these bowls, and they've got, because people arguing about the provenance of them, going, oh, they're not good. Somebody could have made these now, but we can't make them now, So the precision is way beyond. You need a 5-axle mill to create these things, and you still can do it with lug handles on them.
Weird.
Yeah. So there's another place called another place called the Serapeum where they claim that the Egyptians made these things because they're 100-ton granite boxes, right? 70-ton boxes, really different ways, with 30-ton lids that hermetically seal. They're underground. Right, and there's this much room they're about 10 foot high, some of them, and in the corridors there's this much room on either side.
Where's this?
It's a place called Saqqara in Egypt.
Okay.
It's called the Serapeum. Look it up. So there's like 20 odd of these boxes. So somebody's been making these precision cut stone boxes, and then moving them, and then taking them down this corridor, and then imagine like a skeleton key goes off at different points. Then they're turning them in, and then lowering them 6 feet and sitting them in a plinth down, like about 6 to 8 feet down. So there's one that they abandoned because a lot of the sites around the world they've been abandoned. You can see the evidence where works just stopped. Now, 12,850 years ago, the Younger Dryas cataclysm happened, where we were probably struck by about 4 pieces of a large comet, or possibly some plasma stuff as well. A lot of it over the ice sheets over Canada and North America. Over Chicago, was 2 miles of ice back then.
Yeah.
And we were coming out of the ice age, and we were just back into somewhat of a nuclear winter, and terrible stuff. Like a third of all vegetation on Earth was on fire at once, and crazy shit was going on. So you can see a point where everything could have stopped. And it's just like that because there's one of these boxes in this corridor and it's just sat there. We've had to put a walkway around it of the Egyptians because they can't move it. We can't move it. You can only get 10 people around the box on either side. How are you going to move a 100-ton box?
What was the purpose of these boxes? Did they ever open them up to see what was inside?
Interestingly, people speculate they were all opened to some degree, like someone's come along and knew what was in them, because the only box which was sealed up, that's the one we dynamited because we thought there was something in it, treasure in it, of course, and there was nothing.
Right. Weird.
So it could be some energy building machinery. It could be all sorts of stuff, but it's not created by the Egyptians for burying Apis bulls in, like they claim. You couldn't go to the trouble. You're not shipping hundreds. So, like in the 1990s, Christopher Dunn, he got in touch with the foremost American granite producing company, and he went, "Can you make us a 100-ton single piece box? Because the lid's made out of the same block, and they're polished to mirror precision, so you can see your face in them." Right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they said, "Well, we can make these things, but this is what we'd have to do. We need a 160-ton piece of granite first to carve it out of. You need special permissions to get it on the road. We need a special transport for it. And we'd have to make it in 5 pieces and bolt it together for you.
Oh, wow.
This is in the 90s at the most high-tech precision place in the world. Yet they claim that people with copper chisels and stone hammers and no concept of a wheel made this shit, right? And the only reason they date it is because there's some... Right, so imagine if you can make a precision box like this, someone's carved hieroglyphics in it again, but shonkily, so really badly done because the tools won't do it properly, going, oh, I had this made for me. And they find it throughout Egypt. So that's like Ramesses II, he just had his name carved in more deeply.
Interesting. Weird. So you think so what, so you think like a cataclysm wiped out these ancient civilizations essentially, and then
I think,
yeah.
Well, all the stories tell you that there was a cataclysm, and like we've got the flood myth of Noah, but that's the flood of Manu. All these stories come from way back, and then they come from Epic of Gilgamesh, the story we've got. So we all talk about some people knew that something bad was going to happen, and they did something about it. They went into an ark, they went underground, etc. Like the Hopi, they say there was a cataclysm, and they went to live underground with the Anunnaki, the ant people, until it was over. So, yeah, what it seems like is much like today, where all the governments have got all these underground facilities that they'll go and hide in if anything bad happens, and then come back out when everything, leaving everybody else on the surface to suffer. Yeah, same thing here. So around the world, you've got this same thing happening afterwards, which is like over 200 cultures talk about all this devastation, but they also say that these so-called civilizing gods rocked up, who are always generally white blokes with beards. There's generally 7 of them, all with a speciality. Yeah. So in the Middle East, you've got a guy called Oannes, yeah, and a 7 up Kalu. One teaches mathematics, one teaches agriculture, civics, language, etc. Yeah. And that's where you find in that area, in the Fertile Crescent, that's where agriculture starts, that we know of now. And that's where the first herd of cattle comes from. And that's where wheat comes from, but that's been genetically modified. That was like several things that it take you hundreds of years of crossbreeding to create wheat. Yet they had, which you wouldn't do, there'd be no utility to it,
Right. Interesting.
So. In South America, you've got Viracocha and the 7 Viracochas, who's again, they appear and go, hi, we're going to help you to recreate language. We go out, and their story said, we were living like animals and eating each other, we lost language, and the civilizing gods came. The same thing in India, the same thing in Central America, Quetzalcoatl, the same thing. Also called civilizing gods, but it's people, I believe, with high technology still, who've waited till stuff's calmed down and then come back and start to reseed and rebuild civilization. And that's why we get the rise of all of this stuff.
Yeah. Do you think these are off-world beings, like aliens, for lack of a better term, or do you think they were like living underground and sort of emerged? They were like one certain sect of the population that was advanced that left?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think we need, aliens. Homo sapiens now, we're pushing us back to 300,000 years.
Right. No, I guess what I'm saying is, so you're saying that the cataclysm, they went underground. Other civilizations must have gone underground too to ride it out. So there's just one particularly advanced civilization that sort of, I don't know how long you think that was went on, like a couple generations they were waiting it out. So that way they would recognize these people or something. So as far as we can tell there, the Younger Dryas cataclysm, eventually all this bad, all the megafauna died in America and all this other stuff happened. But that went on for about 1,300 years. We'll probably got hit by more pieces. And then Mysteria. So everything's frozen and then everything flooded. Yeah, so you had mega floods beforehand. And this is why the American Midwestern stuff is all scoured like that. And Monument Valley and everything looks like that, because you had massive floods flowing through.
But like 1,300 years later, everything suddenly warmed up, and because everything had frozen, everything thawed, and the sea levels rose 400 feet. So we lost massive amounts of the Earth. The Earth didn't look like that there. So if we've existed for 1,300, for at least 300,000 years with the same brain capacity, in the points when everything wasn't crazy, we could easily have built many civilizations and cultures, and then they've disappeared over time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Like 5,000 years from now, the Earth could still be around. There could be a whole nother civilization that doesn't even know about us, really what we did, because most of our stuff will be like wiped out,
Yeah, completely. I mean, our skyscrapers in 1,000 years, there'd be dust, there'd be no evidence of them whatsoever.
Right.
Whereas these people left evidences in stone, and that's all we can see. We dig stuff up occasionally, but it was like, have you heard of Baalbek in Lebanon?
Yeah, vaguely, yeah.
Yeah. So the people, the old myths around there say that Baalbek exists as the oldest building in the world, right? They try and tell us the Romans built it because there's what looks like Roman stuff on top of all this, right? But even the Roman-looking stuff is bigger than anything that was in Rome, yeah? So what you've got is the lower layers. Everyone talks about a thing called the trilithon, right? And that is 3 massive stones, but essentially what it is a course of stones in this wall, which are 200-ton blocks with 400-ton blocks on, with 800-ton blocks on top of that. Somebody's moved 800-ton blocks and lifted these things up and put them there, right? In the quarry, they try and say the Romans cut these and then realize they couldn't lift them. The Romans could lift their cranes could lift maybe 10 tons or something like that. It's all wheels and levers and it. The stone of a pregnant woman is 1,250 tons. Yeah. A few years ago, we found another one, which is 1,450 tons.
Jeez.
And then a bigger one that's got the 1,450 ton ones on top of the one they found later, and that's 1,650 tons.
Wow.
And somebody's already cut 800-ton ones, which the Romans couldn't do, and the entire complex is full of those things. Yeah, people don't talk about that. We just talk about them. There are many like multiple 100-ton blocks there. So they cut these things, whoever they were, In Egypt, the unfinished obelisk, that's a 1,350-ton obelisk they were going to cut out, lift, and then move somewhere.
Strange. Weird. Well, yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. It's very strange. Yeah, you wonder who knows this kind of stuff. Like secret societies and shit like that.
Exactly. They probably have some, they probably still have some knowledge about it. But you never know. But these people might still be here for all we know, Tim. Just hidden.
Right, yeah. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Now, I know you have a theory on Dyatlov Pass, which I think is intriguing, because I do love the Dyatlov Pass case. For those folks who don't know it, it's a group of hikers went mysteriously died in Dyatlov Pass, Russia, in the Ural Mountains. I want to say about 60 plus years ago or something like that at this point. That's the thumbnail. If you're a Binnall American listener, you got to know Dyatlov Pass. Do you have a theory on Dyatlov Pass?
Yeah, I mean, it ties into what some people have already theorized, but it goes a little bit further because that gets into one of my other theories. So if we look at the Dyatlov Pass incident, they all died in very mysterious circumstances. People don't know about it. The last bit, they put the tent on this mountain where it shouldn't be. They should have been down by the tree line if you're pitching a tent, not up here on this thing. The mountain they were on, funnily enough, is called by the Mansi people who live around there Death Mountain.
Oh, wow.
People don't realize. Anyway, in the middle of the night, for some reason, all these experienced outdoor pursuits people cut a hole in the side of a tent and then went down away from the tent into these trees, like 300 meters or whatever it was. And I'd always thought that, something super scary had happened to them and they'd like legged it and stuff. But the evidence is that they all walked in an orderly manner down into these trees and then never did went back to their tent. So they're like in their long johns and they're in like, some of them don't have shoes on and it's
right. It's bizarre.
And it's snow. But so, there's theories that there was a slab avalanche, they say, which but the angle good enough, and the tent was still standing to some degree. So no avalanche had done it, and they wouldn't have been too scared. They could have always gone back to the tent after the avalanche, of course. Just one person could go back and got some stuff for everybody, you know. And then they're like, oh, there's that wind that came in and created infrasonics, and it scared everybody. But their footprints say they weren't running away from anything. They walked down there. But when they were down there, you know, they tried to make a fire. They dug a snow pit, which you could hide in to get you out of the wind and the rain. So they tried to survive down there for some time, but they never went back to the tent. And then, of course, they were found when searchers came for them. Were all dead, but like many had mysterious wounds.
Yeah.
They'd got internal damage, like they'd been hit by a car or something, but nothing on the outside. They got broken bones. They did have cuts and contusions. But then also, several of them had their eyeballs removed. One person's eyebrows had been taken, one person's lips had been taken, and one person's tongue had been surgically removed, essentially. They said it had been in a stream and it had degraded, but there wasn't that much time for it. What it looks like, that shit looks like somewhat is like the cattle mutilation stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Lev Ivanov, who was the chief investigator, he believed it was UFOs, he said in the 90s during this interview. Now, they were told by the authorities to take all mentions of that out of any official reports, and they've tried to go with, you know, all this slab avalanche and all this crap. But if you look at, there are 4 separate folks, they're all taking pictures of the Dyatlov group. They took pictures all the way through. There are 4 pictures. They're not very good, but they seem to show orbs. Yeah, one streaking across the sky. There's just one in one. There's like 4 in another. But they're pretty, you know, pretty average. But some other hikers 50 kilometers away saw like a group of orange orbs. The Russian military saw some. Some Mansi hunters who were interrogated about it said they'd seen them in that area at that time also. So orbs are often seen around cattle mutilation scenes. You can't say that they actually did that shit, but you can see that now. So we don't have many instances of human mutilation, but there was one in Brazil near Sao Paulo where they found a guy some years ago by a reservoir, and everything that you find with cattle mutilations had happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
He had his rectum cut out. He had his face cut apart. There's incisions. His blood had been taken from him, and all this stuff had happened. So we have evidences of human mutilation, much like the cattle mutilation then. And it looks like with several other people there. Now, Lev Ivanov, he thought because he had the injuries on the inside, like he'd been hit by a car or a Mack truck or something, but nothing on the outside, some sort of blast had done that. He found mysterious burn marks on a tree. And then if we look to Colares Island, which is just in Brazil, just off, it's where the Amazon meets the sea. Some years ago, there was a German doctor working there, and orbs were coming up out of the sea and attacking people. They were firing beams. They were firing beams at people. They were drawing blood from people. They were attacking people in their houses. Fishermen saw them. They were all rising up out of the sea, coming around, going around and attacking people for months. And the government got involved. The army were involved. I think it's called Project Saucer. But we're all looking into it. So we've got evidence of orbs attacking people, let's say.
Yeah.
Similarly at Skinwalker Ranch, they said that there's some blue orb disintegrated dogs and turned that into they turned them into dust, essentially. It was piles of dust. So orbs are seen as UFO sort of and things nowadays, but back in the day they were associated with the fairy folk. They were all over wisps and all that. And what they would do was they were known to take control of people, lead people into like peat bogs or off cliffs and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
There was like in the 80s, there was a Scottish fisherman. The police got involved in this. He'd seen a blue and white orb over a beach, and that took control of him. And he couldn't stop walking towards it. Are you still there, Tim? It seems to have frozen a
Yeah,
bit.
I'm good here. All right, on seem a little.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
I can hear you go.
Yeah. So we've got multiple stories of people being taken control of, mind controlled or body controlled by these orbs around the world, from way back in the day right to the present day. Like the Min Min lights in Australia, the Brown Mountain lights. People all have really weird effects with them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because this leads into my unified theory, really, which is like people can't break up the difference between structured craft we see and then all the other super high strangeness stuff that happens with UFOs.
Right.
And then you've got Bigfoot, haven't you? You've got what seems like a relic hominid, which has got defined footprints with dermal ridges in them and a leave scat and hair and stuff. But then you've got paranormal Bigfoot seen with an orb floating above its hand, or that woman who shot a gun at it disappears in a flash of light and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So we've seen orbs in, around Bigfoot, let's say. This is a report. This has been shit's reported, yeah. So what happens if orbs, ones if they're field entities, essentially, that can manifest into solidity for a certain amount of time in our reality, and then get solid, make solid creatures, make solid people, as you find with all the really weird paranormal stuff around UFOs, where they disappear in mid-conversation with you.
Right. So you think like maybe an orb is like maybe like an energy form that can then manifest, like a sentient form of energy that can manifest. Better way to put it.
Yeah, some sort of plasmoid density or field density that can come more into our reality or density, and for a certain amount of time manifest as solid. Yeah. And this is why you find that in the old days they said that like they could stop them with salt and iron, because salt and iron would disrupt their field if they need a coherent electromagnetic field to manifest as physicality here for a short period of time.
Right.
Then they cause a decoupling. Iron would massively ground the charge out and make them lose coherence. And salt, much like that affects electronics and waves and stuff, much like a slug gets dissolved by it goes across salt.
Yeah.
Stripping all the water out of it. This is stripping the energy out of it, so it becomes incoherent, and this is why they couldn't manifest. And this is like why physics could point out why salt and iron were the only things that said to stop the Fae and the Jinn and all this sort of thing. So the last photograph that one of the people took, one of the Dyatlov Pass people took, was of some mysterious looking black figure just coming around the side of some trees. Yeah. Now, the Mansi people say have a creature called the Menk that lives down there, which is the Almas or the Almasti, essentially, which is a Russian version of Bigfoot.
Right.
And this thing looks like that. It all the pictures that are taken of every man with Dyatlov, you can see the outline of the trousers and the boots, and you know it's a person. This is heads on its neck. Its proportions are all wrong. There's no outlines of any trousers or boots and stuff like that. And they say that Menk is in that area. So what happens if these plasmoid entities can mimic UFOs, which gets me into some other stuff, gets me into the Miss Phantom Airship stuff. And what happens if it can also mimic stuff that's in our environment, like that Bigfoot or the Almas? So what we seem to have there, because there's a YouTube guy called Thinker Thunker, and he's got a measurement system he's worked out so he can show you the proportions, how different they are in Bigfoot or other things that people have seen. Because the proportions, like Patty from Patterson Gimlin, all the proportions are different to ours. Their arms are longer, their bodies are longer, their legs are the same length as their torso. And he's measured that one out. And it doesn't look too big if you see the picture, but it looks very odd. But they were using like 30 mil. The cameras they were using at the time, the Dyatlov Pass, the 50 mil lenses, it wouldn't make you look thinner than you actually are. So something that's 7 or 8 foot tall and super wide in the chest and super like big ass arms and stuff wouldn't quite look as big or as intimidating in a photograph, just because of the cameras they were using and the way that technology was. So I think Dyatlov Pass, it's like the field entities or whatever it is, and it's it's human mutilation.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So you think that these? We'll get to your unified theory in a minute. So you think that the Fae essentially sort of an ethereal being manifested, led them out of the tent down to their
yeah. So against all the better judgment, they weren't let get back to their tent. So
Right.
they stayed in the dangerous situation until they died. We got again and again. You've got all these reports from medieval times all the way upwards of this thing.
Well, it's an interesting theory. I'm not sure what to make of that, but I'll put it in my file of theories. I don't think I've heard a Fae related theory before, so that's a new one for me, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, field entities, really, you know.
Yeah. Well, did you coin that term, or is that something you got somewhere else?
No, that was mine. So you can see. So there might be two strands to the so-called Fae, but like with the jinn, because some of salt and iron can't deal with and stuff, and they're like ethereal beings and all this other stuff. But all the other ones, the Fae could have children with humans, and the jinn could have children. Some of the jinn could have children with humans. How can you do that for your field entity or whatever, a plasmoid-based entity? You couldn't. But if you were the high-tech super civilization people, who people mistake for magical people because you've got so-called magical abilities compared to them again, then that makes more sense. So with the phantom airship stuff, it's very interesting that you see people were always encountering these beings out in nature back in the day, and salt and iron would affect them, cold iron would affect them. Now, Evans went in his researches for his book Fairy Faith in the Celtic Countries, where over the like 12 years he went round France and he went round England and Ireland and Scotland and talked to people about interactions with the Fae.
Right.
Everyone had stories of them and people had seen them and their actions, again, linked with these orbs all the time. But they all said the same thing. You didn't see as much of them. And very tellingly, one old man said to him, when the train came to our town, the Fae went.
Oh,
so yeah. So if they're field-based entity and iron makes them decouple, essentially, they can't remain material coherence, then as the iron horse, the train on the iron tracks, its iron carriages started going out throughout our country, because, you know, as was one of the big Fae ones, then they started retreating. And then the telegraph wires, the big telegraph poles, they were made of iron, and the telegraph wires were iron. So all of a sudden, our country is crisscrossed by iron when it wasn't there previously.
Interesting. Yeah.
And you can see exactly from the point when people stopped seeing the Fae to the phantom airships, it's the same intersectional point, and all of a sudden people are seeing these things in the sky that are doing all these weird things, and all these little people claiming to be inventors and all this shit, right? So from the Fae disappeared, all of a sudden they're in the air more. Now, if everything, as we move into everything starting to be built out of steel and more iron everywhere in our cities and stuff, then it would make sense to manifest more in the air. Safer for you. And as we've moved now into all our different EM fields and stuff, all the different things that we generate, it gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
For this stuff. So we find more and more of it in the air.
Interesting. That's an interesting theory. So what's your unified theory? You have you think there's three sort of types of beings sharing the planet? Is that
let me
the thumbnail?
Let me just get onto that in a minute, Tim. So just one more thing about all that. Right? You know the Joe Simonson case with the pancakes?
Yeah, I'm aware of that one, yes.
Right. So what we have is we got the phantom airships, and then they were doing really weird stuff. Then we got the Foo Fighters, which are essentially orbs. Yeah. Then we get the ghost rockets. And as we move more into technological age, and we got all these flying saucers and stuff,
right.
And Kenneth Arnold, he never described saucers, did he? He said they were like chevron-shaped things skipping across water like a stone would be. He said a saucer, and then we glommed onto flying saucers, and then everybody's reporting flying saucers all of a sudden, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
those people, little men who we thought were Italians, funnily enough, those people in the front of airships claimed to be Italians and stuff like this. And he said he thought they were Italians when the man opened the hatch and got his jug out and gestured for water. He gave him the water, and they saw him supposedly griddling these pancakes, and he gave him these 4 hot, greasy pancakes. And he said they tasted of nothing, and they needed salt. And when they're analysed, they had no salt in them, which is very deathly afraid of course.
Right.
But,
yeah.
But these pancakes, right, were made of buckwheat, so buckwheat pancakes, yeah? And it's some aerial beings, little diminutive characters in a flying saucer giving a gift, yeah? Now, the Corrigan, which is a French version of the Fae, who live in a certain part of France, were well known. If you did them a favor, they would give you a gift of buckwheat pancakes.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And the galette de Sarrasin pancake that they make in that area, it's exactly the same buckwheat pancake. If you look at if you look at Simon's pancakes and you look at a galette de Sarrasin, it's exactly the same pancake.
Huh. Interesting.
So we've got French fairies flying in a flying saucer around rural America in the 60s.
That's wild.
Yeah. A family saw the same flying saucer that week and reported an affidavit they'd seen it. And 2 military planes report orbs around them that week and both crashed, all in the same area.
Weird. All right, the unified theory. Let's hear it. You say you're writing a book about this. So
yeah. It's only one theory because, I'm willing to accept space aliens and I'm willing to accept all sorts of shit. But if we'd got the remnants of a super civilization still here who realize that the Earth's going to get whacked up some more and stuff, and it'd be better to keep to some degree off, but have helped to rebuild civilization for us, and maybe went to the moon. So we've got all those lava tubes we found now. You could be living on the moon, safest place. Under the sea, we've got all the USOs and stuff, especially around Catalina Island and the deep trenches they've got there. Mm-hmm. And all the myths of the underground stuff. I mean, for instance, in Turkey, during Kuyup, they accidentally found that underground city where 20,000 people could live.
Right, yeah.
5 years ago, we found another one where 70,000 people could live. Yeah, and they've found 10-kilometer paths between them, and they're finding more and more of these things. So how many deep underground ones were there? So what I think
all that, yeah,
exactly. That's what Darren Kuyup is. So what if we've got these two things? We've got the super civilization members who are either human or adjacent human. So that's why you could breed with them still.
Yeah, like a breakaway civilization.
That's what we say about the Watchers. All this Yahweh stuff from the Bible, he's like leading people around, but it could easily be a UFO when he's guiding with a pillar of light by day and a pillar of fire by day at night and pillar of cloud by day. And the Watchers, all the other civilizing gods around the world, they're like, oh, great, thanks, you saved us. Because it's the Bible and stuff. They're going, and they sinned by giving man the gift of technology and helping him with agriculture and mathematics. And so we're humans, yeah? So if they are still around and they have their technology, which is more advanced than ours, what happens if that answers the question of the structured craft and all the meetings with Space Brothers and all the 50s stuff where it's like, hey, we're from Venus or we're from Zeta Reticuli. Would you like to ride in our spaceship? Nuclear war is bad. Yeah? And you can see with the rise of like Robert Hastings stuff, we can see with rise, once we start with nuclear stuff, how it would affect people living here secretly, people living underground secretly, people on the moon, they were going to launch that. And we can get into all their domains now. We can get to the bottom of the ocean. We can get deep underground. We can get to the moon. So what happens if we've got them still coming around to some degree and super concerned about nuclear weaponry, because that's the only thing that can really mess them up, and us messing the world up, because it's theirs too. And the so-called field entities, who also would be affected because of nuclear blast create massive EMP waves and all this other stuff, and it might tear apart them or their existence or their adjacent reality to some degree.
Right.
And they'd be interested in stopping it. This is why we get all these messages. That they might just mimic to some degree that, and this is why you get the high strangeness UFO stuff and the nuts and bolts stuff. And it doesn't take people coming from Zeta Reticuli to here. And why would they care about us letting off nuclear weapons? Because they're so far away. But if you live here, you'd be super concerned about it. So then you get those two strands of the super civilization members, field entities, interdimensionals, plasmoids, whatever you want, mimic those and then do all the fruity shit with it. So they've got breeding programs with humans because they need the genetic stock still. And then that gets into all the disappearances in mysterious manners, all that 411 stuff. And then you get the field entities with all the missing time and all the high strangeness and stuff. Because if you end up in their field and mess your brain workings up, you won't reference time correctly.
Right.
And you could get sucked into their reality to some degree and possibly not get back. So, and then if you've got relic hominids like Bigfoot or something that's leaving dermal ridges and scat and stuff, and then them impersonating it also because they want to create emotion in humans, then you've got these two strands of it, and it explains why we get structured craft, why we get all the weird stuff in the sky that seems alive.
Yeah.
But acts like structured craft, and then you get all the other stuff that comes with all that. So it's super civilization and these other entities. We've been living in this biosphere with all this time, but not recognizing it.
Right.
It answers the two problems of high strangeness and nuts and bolts. So that's essentially my unified theory.
Interesting. Well, I mean, it's an interesting theory. It makes sense in a way. It's that does ring a bell that we would be sharing the planet with some. Certainly seems like we're not alone, even here on Earth. Just don't.
Yeah, completely. So that's how that would work, though, because it's just two strands, but that mimics that, and this is why they can, if you energetically and you find a lot of that stuff. I'll get onto crop circles now. Actually, this is very interesting.
Yeah.
So there's that great footage of orbs making a crop circle that was taken in the late 90s, and that guy filmed it, and that was orbs flying around. Now, people have tried to say that footage isn't real, but people were in the pub when he brought it in that morning, and they actually saw the 10-minute tape before he gave it to someone else who said he was going to get it analysed, and he came back and we ended up with a 30-second clip, which people tried to say if a film production company in Birmingham made it that morning for him, which he really couldn't do.
Yeah.
And these things have seen these orbs again have seen multiple times over crop circles. So I also interviewed Gary King from a TV show, and he was the guy though on 777 who was on the side of the hill, and they met a guy with night scopes and everything. And at 3:13 in the morning, there's a flash of light like that, and there's nothing in the field, and they've been filming it in daylight as it got dark. Flash of light like that, and then there's a crop formation that's 1,400 foot long by 750 feet wide or something.
Wow.
And that would appear a flash of light like that.
Wow. What do you think's making these crop circles?
Again, you've got these two evidences. It seems like orbs are involved in this stuff. Now, most of them are done in Wiltshire, where there's piezoelectric energy there, because there's Europe's biggest chalk aquifer there, so the water's percolating through it and creating piezoelectric energy. So you could utilize that to make them, And people try to lead round to one I got into, but that one was creating a flash of light like this, it seems, and those orb ones are just flying over and the formation that's being created. But in 1996, there was the Julia set one that appeared at Stonehenge. Have you heard of that one? That appeared in 15 minutes in broad daylight while people at Stonehenge.
No.
So a private doctor who's a private pilot flew over and he looked down on Stonehenge and there's nothing in the field. Goes and lands a plane. Half an hour later, he's driving back and there's loads of crowd. So he gets out of his car and there's this huge crop circle. So there's Stonehenge is here, there's a road here, and on the other side here, there's this massive crop circle, which is like massive amount of circles, much bigger than Stonehenge. And the security guard walks around and he pauses there every 15 minutes and looks over that field, and it hadn't been there 15 minutes earlier. So it appeared at like 4:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday in broad daylight with crowds there. No one saw anything.
That's
so yeah. So a crop circle appeared up here one time, and we managed to get to it. And it was, as I said, it don't happen very often in the north. or anywhere else in England. It happened around the world in various bits. But we got into this crop circle. It was a massive series of circles in a ring. And we got into one of the circles, and it was 3 lays going in 3 different directions. And there's a stately home up here, so people would see you if you were there with lights and stuff, let's say, you know. Because the Milk Hill one, for instance, that appeared in 5 hours, and that's the biggest one ever with 409 circles, and that is in 5 hours at night in a rainstorm on undulating hills. But when they tried to make a crop circle for Firefox a few years ago, it took 24 hours. We had a helicopter, a plane, lights, ladders, farmer's permission. You'd all shit disappearing. And no one's ever been caught for it, and it'd be real amazing.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, we got in there, and a pigeon had been sitting in the ring we were in, and it was under the second lane. You could see where it had been smeared along with the lay, and all the feathers went around.
Oh, wow, really? That's weird.
Yeah, totally. But then I'm like, wow, and it'd been down for about 5 days, so it wasn't as good as fresh as it had been when we got there. But in one of the other things, there were parts of the pigeon, and they were heat fused to the crop.
Did you take pictures of all this?
We did. Unfortunately, we lost them when our computer hard drive. So we still got some video when it's little in there and other pictures in there, but our hard drive blew up. We couldn't recover it, and we lost it.
That would be really great to have.
Oh God, yeah.
Tell me about
one, man.
Tell me about this TV show you got on the Roku, Misteria.
So again, I do deep dives into looking at various things. So I've done a couple of episodes on USOs, looking at undersea objects and stuff, and possibilities of where deep underground bases are. In the second episode, I featured. Did you hear about that footage recently with that? With those drones fired at that orb.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I featured that because it seemed to release something from the back of it, and 3 things tracked after it. The missile has bounced off it, and that was in Congress. So I talked about that. I tracked down various stories from very credible sources like naval sources and stuff. Talked about all those and all the different experiences they'd had with USOs and stuff. I did one of my episodes about did they become extraterrestrials. Another 2-part was about Knights Templar and ancient high technology and stuff, in the search for that, because, as I said, the evidence is everywhere. So in that episode, I point out like how they were camped on the Temple of Solomon, and that again, the evidence of the super civilization are there, because the Wailing Wall you hear about, which is so holy and stuff. People don't realize there's courses of stone underneath that much further down, and they were above ground back in the day. So underneath in the tunnels under Jerusalem, there's a thing called the Western Stone, and that's 650 tons and 48 feet long and 14 feet deep and 11 feet high. And there's a couple more 400 tons ones next to it. And the wall actually goes down even further. So they're 12 courses of stone up. So someone's taken a 650 ton stone, it had been bigger at the time, carved it, moved that and lifted that up and put it on a wall.
Crazy.
So that ties into, so all that ties into Solomon and wisdom. And he had again, it seems like technology, he had a thing called the shamir that could cut stone and diamonds and all this stuff. So I've done episodes on that. I've interviewed various people like Larry Arnold you've had on. I talked to Larry, which is really nice of him to come on. That was great.
Love Larry. And where can folks find this? You're going to have it on YouTube soon, you say?
So what we're doing is we've got the TV show that's going to have separate episodes, but possibly cover different things. And then we're building out a YouTube channel. So that's going to be like doing shorts at the moment, and that's going to do deep dive into various mysteries as well. So I'll have both things going, and then the YouTube can take people to the TV series.
There you go. Yeah. And that's Misteria. Misteria. All right.
It is indeed.
And you're working on a book that's going to kind of tie this unified theory together, you're saying?
Yeah. As I say, I'm willing to take most things on board, but I think it's a compelling theory and it answers a lot of the questions. So, from the civilizing gods to the field entities to all of the other stuff. So I'm working on a book about that at the moment. So I don't know when that'll be ready, but That'll be cool.
How did you become a Tai Chi expert?
That's pretty weird also. I have a weird life, Tim. So I was ill for I went to film school and I'd been getting ill from the age of 16.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I graduated, I couldn't go into the film industry. I worked for a few years, and then they told me I couldn't work again. I'd been medically retired. So no, you're just disabled. And I tried everything. So eventually a friend convinced me to Tai Chi, and there are two strands to Tai Chi. One's a super secret one, which gives you super crazy Tai Chi powers, which look superhuman. And one's just old people moving around slowly, which is the thing that most people see. So I found a teacher who was one of the best in the country. The medical profession couldn't fix me in 15 years. Within 2 years, I was doing all the things I couldn't do before I was ill, because at least I was the most clumsy and uncoordinated human in the world beforehand. Yeah. Then I was ill with fibromyalgia, so I was in incredible pain. My body was super stiff, no energy, would collapse, and all this other stuff. And carried on from there, and I've been lucky enough to study with some of the best people in the world and go further and further and further with it. So that's how I got there. So I've been gifted a lot of the secrets which people used to have to pay massive amounts of dollar back in the day. So in China, before the fall of the dynasty, Tai Chi was only taught to the bodyguards of the imperial royal family and some of the princes and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
But after it fell, because Tai Chi masters, everybody else was dead by the age of 26, because Tai Chi masters still lived in the 90s, even way back then, they were super vital and powerful still. Because Tai Chi blends the best of the Taoist internal energetic work, the health work, and all the other understandings, people started paying them metric shit tons of gold and stuff to get the secrets of health. And that's why I got passed down to the West. So regular Tai Chi is good for everybody because it's a movement, it's good for balance and all this. But real Tai Chi gives you crazy skills. So I can make people's feet fly off the floor by pressing on one finger and make people stick to me and loads of crazy ass shit. I'll send you some videos of it so you can see for yourself.
Really?
So, yeah.
You know, some are they tricks, or is it how does it work? Is it energy related?
Some of it's energy related, some of it's facial work. We use the entire human body, so there's use pneumatics and hydraulics and energetics, use chi and all of these things. So you basically you control the other person's nervous system. So you attack them under the conscious mind and get control of them. They just stuck to you. Make people bounce off. I've got footage with a rugby player running me from 10 feet away while I stand on one foot and he just comes to a dead stop.
Really? This is through time?
Yeah, totally. I had a guy come to me who was in one of my networking groups, and I demonstrated some all the crazy shit on him. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I do Taekwondo and Tai Chi," and he's 20 years younger than me, same height as me, more muscly than me. And I sent him across. I can send energy through inanimate objects, so I sent him across the floor a few feet through a pen. I've moved people through breadsticks before and shit. They keep snapping, but they move not too far. Yeah, totally. Yeah, anyway.
Jesus. How do you do that? You mentally, is it a mental, you got to concentrate and then fucking shoot the...
There are various triggers in the body, so you don't really have to move, but you can send the power out through you. So, yeah, anything, the contacting. So, pen, there used to be a sword and all that shit back in the day, of course, but...
Yeah.
Because I've got loads of safe stuff I can demonstrate to people. So this guy came to see me and he's like, yeah, I do Taekwondo and kickboxing. And he saw a picture where I had a boxing coach punching me as hard as he wanted and me laughing at him and stuff. His kicks and punches bounce off. You got a thing called Pong, which makes kicks and punches bounce off essentially. You can send power out of any part of your body.
Yeah.
Send people out. Anyway, so I demonstrated the safe stuff, sent the guy out through a pen and made his feet leave the floor and made him stick to me and got him to punch me and spun him around. And before he left, he's like, wow, that's amazing, Rich. And I went, it'd be really worse if you try and kick me because I just knock you straight on your ass. And I was just really a really lovely guy and I was really friendly and I'm friendly with him to this day. I won't name him, but he's giving me a testimonial later going, Rich is one of the most talented martial artists I've ever met. And his story's so great and stuff. And I won't give his name out, but essentially he was 4 times world kickboxing champion, 4 times world taekwondo champion.
Wow, yeah.
And I'd gone, I'll just knock you on your ass. I felt a bit guilty after that, but you can see what Tai Chi does if it can take the world's biggest klutz and a cripple and make somebody who can do that shit.
It's pretty impressive. What is Qigong?
Qigong.
Oh, Qigong. Okay, Qigong.
Yeah, there are two transliteration systems. There's Wei Jiao's and Pinyin. So one spells it QI and one's CHI.
Okay.
So essentially, because we've got Qi or life force or energy, let's say, in our bodies, Tai Chi builds all of that. So you get massive reserves of all of that sort of stuff with certain practices, but you get the martial arts. And it's spiritual. Yes. Qigong builds all of that stuff in there. So it allows you to. So that creates great health and vitality and all of the other stuff that can happen. So Qigong is a more health-based but spiritual practice for building Qi and all of that. So, but Tai Chi just gives you all of the juice so you can do whatever you want. You don't age like other people and you can kick most people's ass.
All right. Yeah. Well,
it's super cool. And there's some really freaky stuff. There are people with much greater skills than I have out there, and I know of various stories I've heard and stuff. I mean, I've seen footage where a friend of mine went to see this sect who trace themselves back to Buddha, essentially, but they're very spiritual and through the power of prayer and divinity and stuff. You've seen all these people that can break spears on their throat and stuff, break arrows. You go to a Tony Robbins thing and oh, great. I've seen the footage and my friend was there. They got a big, thick sword with a super thick metal with super sharp point. And this girl put it on her throat, leant into it and just bent it like this.
Wow.
Yeah, but my friend also has footage, which I'm trying to get off him for my TV show, where they put it on their eye and they do the same thing.
Jesus.
Yeah, with the super thick sword.
Crazy to do something like that. That's wild.
Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah. They have to go and pray afterwards and do all this shit, but they can do all of this crazy stuff. I've seen footage where the guy's touching another guy and he sends electrical chain, and you can see the guy's nervous system start freaking out as it goes through him, and then he pulls it back in.
Oh my God. Jesus. That's wild.
Yeah. Oh, it is, because the like high level Taoist stuff, it's all like spiritual work and all that stuff. You get like crazy ass skills also. But people don't talk about all that because it's all hidden.
Well, yeah. Well, you're revealing it here today on the show. That's wild.
I'll send you some bits of footage, Tim, so you can check it out for yourself, though, just so you can go, oh, Rich.
I definitely want to see that. Yeah. All right. So, Misteria. Misteria is the show. I don't know what Roku. I know what Roku is, but it's like a Roku is a channel now too. So it's on Roku.
It's the world's biggest streaming platform, so you can get Netflix and all the other shit on there. So my show's available on Roku at the moment, which is built in the most smart TVs now in North America, Android TV, and Amazon Fire, and it's going to be available on Apple TV in the near future.
There you go. And then also you're going to be launching a YouTube channel by the time people hear this. It'll be out.
Yeah.
All right, Rick. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope it lived up to your expectations. I did my best to keep up with you, but you got a lot going on here. I was trying to follow along as best I could here, waking up today.
But thank you very much for having me. It's been great. It's just like chatting to an old friend. I've heard your voice so much.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, man. It was my pleasure.
My pleasure, brother. Thank you for having me.